What is up, y'all? It's your boy Aniki coming at you with a chapter review for the latest chapter in the Sanji vs. Queen battle. Sanji vs. Queen, One Piece 1034. If you haven't read it, you gotta go. You already know. You do the page by page breakdowns, reading along, so that way, if you read along while we do the video, it just kind of helps. But, anyways, right away, we're going back to the beginning. Cover page isn't really important, just to stop flexing at carnival stands. Run past that since it's not one of the cover stories. Man, oh man, do I miss the cover stories. Even if the last time we had a cover story that I can recall, it gave us the disappointment that is Pound being alive. Now, we see the geisha that Sanji ran into earlier running away. She tells us she's looking for Chuji, which we obviously get explained later, but they're trying to get her to run out. Everybody's like, let's go, get out of here. We don't need this. We need to find a way to get not only off this island, but out of Wano. And I think to a certain degree, this will allow, this is one of the things that, I don't know if I brought it up on any of the chapter reviews yet, but when they mentioned that they were moving to annex Wano, to a certain degree, this feels extremely plausible that the people of Wano would be willing to go along with this, simply because at the end of the day, Momonosuke is an 8-year-old who happens to have been aged up to 28, but he is not a true, actual 28-year-old adult who can run the nation. Now, we could let Hiyori run the nation, but I don't know if the people of Wano are actually going to be comfortable with that. In addition to that, they don't have a fully trained military, and with the Navy already there and most of their people exhausted, it doesn't seem like even if they want to go along with that or not, they really will have much of a choice. I'm of the belief that the SSG will be coming to Wano, and personally, I would like to see potentially the Straw Hats and the Worst Generation versus the SSG, or if we finally get some of the Grand Fleet involved, because it blows my mind that the Grand Fleet has not come into play yet. So just a lot to think about. Like, at this point, people would like to get out of Wano, and if they get annexed, that will give them a chance to move on, get out of there, and the government can claim some of the land and find or look for whatever they want to find and get there, namely poneglyphs and information like that. So I'm sure people would love to be able to just get out of Wano at this point. Most of it has been ravaged and is malnourished, so we'll see what happens there. There is a big theory of Green Bull being on the ships and potentially showing up and restoring Wano with his devil fruit. So that's a thing. I am kind of in the team of I'd love for him to have a plant devil fruit, just because I don't think we've had much focus on like an actual plant devil fruit. And we did find out that Smoothie almost got the fruit, I believe. So yeah, shout out to Silvers. Now, we see Momonosuke finally somewhat getting a grasp of the fire clouds, and he's doing what he can to make sure that the worst case scenario doesn't happen. He can grab on the Kaidos. He's struggling to generate a bunch of his own. I think this just comes with the territory of him having an artificial devil fruit, and also having been so afraid of his dragon form for so long that he doesn't quite have the faculties necessary. It really, one of the things that Momonosuke definitely should have spent more time on during this past month of training, because we saw him doing swordsmanship training, but definitely actually working on his fighting and dragon form powers would have been a very smart move. Now, when we cut back to Sanji and Queen, first, also, I just want to point out that once again, the military objective here is to not let the Beast Pirates leave the castle, because as long as they don't leave Onigashima, even if they lose, there's a good chance that the fire will burn and blow up. So every Beast Pirate will still be taken out as long as they hold the entrances and don't let people escape. So just keep that in the back of your mind. That's what the objective is currently. So we got Sanji and Queen back at it, and we open up with Sparking Queen, and we realize that he can use Ichiji's explosion type power. He's shooting beams. He's got the Henry Queen using the electricity, like the Henry Needle, and the Henry Blazer that Niji has, and then he's spamming more lasers. And it's kind of interesting that like we had kind of had it was like, oh yeah, the tech to shoot lasers repeatedly, and it immediately made all of us think of Kizaru's laser, because that's usually the basis for lasers in One Piece. That it kind of just went past the radar. That I didn't see a lot of people talking about the idea that maybe the reason Queen was spamming so many lasers was because he had copied Ichiji, who is a character we've seen just lob lasers left and right, or energy blast. So kind of fascinating that kind of just went under the radar as far as a lot of discussions go. And Queen starts bragging about the whole using Germa 6-6 moves. This kind of clarifies and like hard clarifies that yes, the particular raid suits that they had, like those concepts, they had already existed before the quadruplets were born. So this likely means that the raid suits prior to Sanji's generation and his family were basically like something that the Knights of Germa would wear. So the highest tier of Germa military command likely had raid suits, and that's how that used to work before it ended up all being genetic locked to the actual children of the Vinsmoke. Or maybe Judge used to have a lot more siblings. Regardless, if people are this informed and we were able to have the comics about Sora of the Sea and all that other stuff happen, it's very likely that the raid suits and the Vinsmokes are those positions of sparking red and the blue and all that other good stuff have been there for a while now. So very much functioning kind of like a Power Rangers system. And of course, the Winch Queen gets broken out. Now, what I like about this is that with One Piece, because of how much contention there is, I try to make sure I look at both translations, just because I know sometimes stuff ends up being really, really different. And so to make sure that we understand what people are talking about, for example, there was the time that the chapter where Kaido and Big Mom announced that they were teaming up, somebody translated it as them getting married, where like we have to let everybody know by the time of the wedding, and then it was just about the Fire Festival. So sometimes there's extreme differences, so it's important to kind of be on the lookout, because if you're going to talk about something and if people get confused, it's important to know that I'm using like official translations for these. So just keep that in mind. So after Queen busts out the Winch Queen, it's worth noting that Sanji kicks through his arm, which it doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like Queen ever actually replaces this arm for the rest of the fight, which to a certain degree means that Sanji might be the first Straw Hat in a while we've seen just straight up maim a dude. I could see Oda, of course, just having Queen's hand be fixed or better in a little bit or something like that, but the reality is like from what we've seen, Sanji actually basically cut his arm off with just a kick. And it's worth noting that while Queen is getting all excited, Sanji just kind of pops back up after getting hit with that winch attack and just kicks him straight up in the chest. And basically it's like, dude, I don't know why, don't assume that just because because to a certain degree, the only thing that ever gives Queen an advantage in this fight, and I want this to kind of be stressed because I don't think it's been acknowledged, the only time Sanji has any issues is when it's something completely new being thrown into the mix versus Queen. Like the second that he threw out the lasers, once he dodged them once, he was dodging them multiple times. The sparking red attacks ended up not being that much of an issue for him. The needle attack, like you see, he was able to handle the winch attack eventually too. Like understanding how these attacks work, as soon as he knows how they work, he just handles them. So it's like the only exception really is when Queen launched himself as a brachio snake, and that was mostly so that we could get set up for Sanji awakening his Germa exoskeleton and healing factor and stuff like that. So throughout most of this fight, it's been Sanji landing heavy blows, kicking Queen, and Queen mostly relying on the fact that he's got this scientific enhancements and this dinosaur devil fruit, kind of just coasting off the fact that he's got a high HP pool. But as far as like the raw skill goes, Sanji was landing a lot more hits and in general making a lot more of like an impact. So when we get to this point where Sanji's kind of like, look, dude, I'm actually of a calm mind. That's kind of important for being able to use observation hockey and being able to dodge attacks. So Sanji basically being like, I'm focused. My hockey, my mind state is on point is important for the way the One Piece combat system works. And what's more is what I find fascinating is that after Queen replicates Sanji's ability, noticing that he does not replicate Poison Pink at all, but he replicates Sanji's stealth. Sanji, we thought he just randomly turned invisible. That's what it seemed to be implying on the chapter that finished with Hell's Memories. But it's also showing that he's just going really fast. They're depicted differently and have different automatopoeias. So it could be that he genuinely turned invisible that first time, and this time just used high speed movement to do it. But either way, the fact that Sanji is capable of moving at a speed that nobody can observe him at, and it seems like he's not even actually there, because Osome didn't even notice Sanji hear him, none of it. So he's just whatever, just dipping around, going back and forth fast. So Queen comments that this is going to burn him out, but what's worth noting is that, like, basically what Sanji's really doing in this moment too is getting a feel for how his body really works. Because as he's popping around, we start getting Queen's monologue about how, oh, this one geisha turned me down. Oh, she's supposed to be sick. And then he admits that he's the one that smacked her. He was invisible. And more than likely what this is just like Queen called King a sick freak for doing torture, because Queen runs the prisons and you see he runs the death games. This was him enjoying the fact that he noticed that would cause Sanji psychological anguish. And so he was kind of too busy having fun, which is a really common issue with a lot of characters. Even if you look at what's ultimately going to lead to Kaido's defeat here, because if we truly expect Luffy to win, the main thing that's going to lead to Kaido's defeat isn't that he wasn't strong enough to beat Luffy. It's that he didn't do like he said and cut off his head himself and just be done with it. Because he put him in prison instead of just whacking him with his club like 8 more times to conquer his haki into a bloody pulp. So, to a certain degree, these characters not thinking their actions all the way through or changing priorities, and Queen going to attack this woman is directly in conflict with Sanji's ideals, and he's invisible. So there's the argument about whether Sanji used observation haki or just so they could hear him or whatever. Considering he landed a pinpoint blow to Queen's head, I'm going to assume that there's some observation haki at play here, just because of the way Sanji's fighting style and those combos, these long combos work. Because it's him hitting specific cuts and areas on a body to dissect it and slowly break it down. So we see Osame try to get Chuji, and right when Sanji sees him, this is when we start getting a breakdown. He's like, what did I gain? He's like, his musculature has improved some. He's got better speed now. His exoskeleton is up. And he's like, all these things can help me hit harder. But he's like, add this to the color of armament haki I've developed to the exoskeleton, and my legs are tougher, capable of supporting even hotter flames. Now, what this seems to suggest, though, is that before this, there was a limit to how much Sanji could heat up his legs before his legs felt a backlash from it, which kind of means that the entire series, or the entire time that Diable Jambe has been on the table, Sanji has been, to a certain degree, holding back. Not being able to actually fully access the power that he has due to it, his legs just being human. So, in reality, as much as people make the Judge carrying jokes, the reality is that it's more like Judge is finally helping, is doing his job and finally helping Sanji be who he's supposed to be. But what's more about this is that by Sanji going against both himself in the Stealth Black form in this moment and all the other brothers that he had to go against, but not fighting his sister who was never against him, he kind of gets to come to terms with, his conflicts against them. We all thought that most of us thought that he was going to fight at least 1 or 2 of his brothers in Whole Cake Island, and we didn't get that. So this kind of rewards us, those of us who wanted to see that, where we get to see him kind of fully establish himself as above those abilities. And it's worth noting that we never see his brothers use haki, and it's likely that Sanji is able to reach a level that they will never be able to reach because he has access to his will, because he's fully capable of feeling and addressing that and using his passion. And now people were having this big argument about whether Sanji could get conquerors. And what I will say is that it would be odd to put only four people, like 5 people, on a cover titled Conquerors, and only one of them can't use Conquerors Haki. That would be weird. And I could say that Diable Jambe and Ashura run on similar principles, which is that they are a subconscious utilization of Conquerors Haki, because a conqueror needs to make their will reality. They need to set up a dominion. And so Diable Jambe being the manifestation of Sanji's emotions, the things that Judge fought to repress, so the things that make him the most, those feelings. So him manifesting that reality on his leg, in the flame as flames, and Zoro manifesting the extra heads that like reflect his path and his dedication to Ashura as a lord of the sword, his dedication to being the ultimate swordsman. You could argue that's why Zoro was able to use Conqueror's Haki without even knowing it, and that would kind of like add this explanation of when you have really hard to explain powers in One Piece, it is a new manifestation of Conqueror's Haki, which would kind of make the color of the Supreme King also work similar to Nen, and that it would allow for unique manifestations and traits amongst people. So next, what I want to kind of talk about is when Sanji uses this new level of Diable Jambe, when he uses Ifrit Jambe. Now, I've seen some people talk about how linguistically, there's certain languages where Diable means devil, and Ifrit also means devil if you're going to certain, I believe, Middle Eastern languages, but I don't want to label a specific one just in case. Where it means devil, and you could look at that as it's the same dish but with a different set of spices, because a lot of people don't necessarily think of French cuisine when they think spicy, but if you think of some of like Middle Eastern dishes, you might be able to think of some more spice heavy ones, or ones with more of an aromatic taste. It's also worth noting that in certain like I've encountered a book series before, the Bartimaeus trilogy, where the Ifrit was the next level up. It was a level in the demon system. It was like the second from the highest. And in that regard, you also had jinns, which would be like genies, also like a jinn. So it would be like a tier above the genie, which I think would be kind of a funny reference when you look at that structure of like Ifrits being a class of demons that's slightly higher than the others. Then it's like he's also above the genie. So that's like you're under like a hard confirmation there for people who want to be silly about it. But I also want to talk about like the way Sanji's leg looks, because of the fact that this has been such a sci-fi type of fight, so science fiction. I just want to point out that with Sanji having like the random electricity and the lightning coming off from the heat on his leg, I've seen people discuss how some volcanoes, when they get superheated, it causes for like the air to ionize, and then you get lightning off of just molten explosions. There's also the chance that this could straight up be like Sanji entering or generating the fourth state of matter, like getting a hot, like so hot that it's like a sun and it's basically plasma, and that will make his kicks kind of like the same as getting hit with like laser beams to a certain degree, because we're going with it's got plasma bolt kicks, so then like that beef burst is like him blasting you in the chest with like repeatedly fired lasers, which is supposed to be such a big deal in One Piece. So just this variety to how you can see this Ifrit Jambe, but him in general being able to generate a heat that it seems like he's had access to, just not a body that was fully capable of keeping up with it yet, kind of lets us know that he's been kind of held back throughout post time skip. And I think that's kind of cool, because both Zoro's fight and his fight involve him getting into a position and accepting something about their past and bringing on that burden and accepting it and using that to go all out and be your full self. And in Zoro's case, he's just going all out and establishing his will to cut anything. And in Sanji's case, he's defending a woman, fighting for his honor, rejecting his family, establishing his own legacy as a person, as Sanji, and really both of them just kind of coming into their own. So masterful work on this chapter. Really enjoyed it. Hope you guys did too. Let me know what you think down below. Sanji versus effectively the Vinsmoke family and a dinosaur all at once. Pretty satisfying. probably some of the best Sanji stuff we've gotten post time skip. I would actually say definitely. So looking forward to what's going to happen in the next couple of chapters, whether Queen gets up or not. I wouldn't be surprised if Queen didn't get up, because of the way that this is usually the kind of combo that like finishes a fight. But I could also see this being similar to the Bon Clay situation, where Queen is going to try to monologue for a little bit longer. But I don't think that he'll try to befriend Sanji, but it will lead to Sanji having to just put him out completely after a dialogue, more than likely, is how I kind of see this going. So yeah, that's all I got to say about this, though. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Leave comments down below. Let me know what you guys think. Hope to see you Sundays for Search with Mitch A and for Mitch A Reviews. I'm Aniki. This has been a One Piece review, and I'm out.